The sound of Trenton's suitcase wheels rolling across our hardwood floor will haunt me forever. Not because it was loud, it wasn't, but because of how casual it sounded, like he was just heading out for another business trip instead of walking out of our 12-year marriage. "I'm done pretending, Cecilia." He didn't even look at me as he spoke, just kept folding his shirts with the same methodical precision he used for everything else. This hasn't been working for either of us. My name is Cecilia, and until that Tuesday morning in March, I thought I knew exactly who I was. Dutiful daughter, devoted wife. The woman who made sure Trenton's coffee was perfect every morning and who never missed a single one of my parents' dinner parties, no matter how exhausting they were. What do you mean it hasn't been working? I stood in our bedroom doorway, still wearing the silk pajamas he'd bought me for Christmas. We just renewed our vows last year. He finally looked up, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger or frustration, those I could have worked with. It was indifference, complete, soul-crushing indifference. That was for your parents, and you know it. He zipped up the suitcase with a sharp sound that made me flinch. Your mother insisted on the whole renewal ceremony after her book club started gossiping about the Hendersons' divorce. So what? You're just leaving? After everything we've built together? What have we built, Cecilia? Really? He wheeled the suitcase past me and I caught a whiff of unfamiliar perfume on his shirt. You live in your parents' shadow, and I've been suffocating in it right alongside you. The perfume smell hit me like a slap. There's someone else. It wasn't a question. The way he paused at the top of the stairs told me everything. Her name is Alyssa. She's 22, she's brilliant, and she actually has her own opinions about things. He started down the stairs, and I followed like a lost puppy. She doesn't need her mommy's approval for every decision she makes. 22? My voice cracked. Trenton, she's barely out of college. She's the new intern at the firm, and she's more mature than you've ever been. I watched him load his suitcase into his BMW, the car I'd helped him pick out, the one I'd made payments on when his business was struggling. The morning sun caught the wedding ring he'd already removed from his finger. Don't do this, I whispered. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. I already filed the papers. He slammed the trunk shut. My lawyer will be in touch. And just like that, he drove away. 12 years reduced to the sound of tires on asphalt and the echo of his indifference. I called my mother immediately. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed someone, anyone, to tell me this was all a nightmare. Oh, sweetheart. Mom's voice carried that particular tone she used when she was more annoyed than sympathetic. Come over for dinner tonight. Your father and I will help you figure this out. 3 hours later, I sat at my parents' dining room table, the same table where I'd eaten thousands of meals, where I'd done homework, where I'd announced my engagement to Trenton. Mom had made pot roast, my supposed favorite, though I'd told her years ago that I'd become vegetarian. You have to understand, dear, Mom said, cutting her meat with surgical precision. Marriages don't just fall apart overnight. There are usually signs. Signs? I pushed the meat around my plate. What kind of signs? Dad cleared his throat. Well, you have been rather dependent lately. On us, I mean. Maybe Trenton felt like he was marrying into our family instead of starting his own. Dependent? The word stung. I help you with the business accounts. I organize your social events. You live in the house we bought you, Mom interrupted. You work part-time at the gallery we funded. You've never really been independent. I stared at them both. Are you seriously blaming me for my husband cheating? No one said anything about cheating, Dad said quickly. He smells like another woman's perfume, Dad. He's leaving me for a 22-year-old intern. What would you call it? Mom set down her fork with a sharp clink. I'd call it a wake-up call. Maybe this is exactly what you need to finally grow up. The words hit me like ice water. I excused myself to use the bathroom, but instead found myself standing in their kitchen, trying to catch my breath. That's when I heard Mom's voice from the dining room. Trenton, darling, it's Nora. Yes, I know this is difficult, but we need to discuss the property transfer sooner rather than later. Cecilia's going to be emotional about this, and we can't let sentiment complicate things. Property transfer, my childhood home, the house they'd promised would always be mine. I pressed my back against the kitchen wall and listened to my mother plan my complete destruction. The family meeting happened 3 days later. Mom called it that, a family meeting, like we were discussing vacation plans instead of dismantling my entire life. They'd set up the living room like a boardroom. Dad sat behind his mahogany desk, Mom perched on the edge of the leather sofa, and I was relegated to the uncomfortable chair they usually reserved for repair technicians. "We've been thinking about your situation," Mom began, her hands folded in her lap like she was delivering a eulogy. "And we believe the best thing for everyone, including you, is a fresh start." "A fresh start?" I looked between them. "What does that mean?" Dad shuffled some papers on his desk. "Legal documents," I realized. "We're transferring ownership of your house to Trenton." The words didn't compute at first. "My house?" "Technically, it's our house," Mom corrected. "We purchased it, we hold the deed. But we put it in your name as a wedding gift, and now—" She shrugged. "Well, circumstances have changed. You're giving my house to my ex-husband?" My voice came out strangled. "The house I grew up in? The house where I learned to ride a bike in the driveway and had my first kiss on the front porch? Sweetheart, you're being dramatic." Mom's voice carried that edge it got when she was losing patience. "Trenton has agreed to take over the mortgage payments. It's a practical solution." "Practical for who?" I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the hardwood. "He left me for a college student." "He left you because you never learned to stand on your own 2 feet," Dad said quietly. "Maybe this will force you to finally become independent." I stared at him. "Independent? You want me to be independent by making me homeless?" "You're not homeless," Mom snapped. "You can rent a nice apartment, start fresh, maybe get a real job instead of playing around at that gallery." Playing around? The gallery work was part-time, sure, but I genuinely loved it. I've been there for 3 years. I've built relationships with artists. "You've been hiding," Dad interrupted. "From real responsibility, from real life. Your mother and I enabled that, and we're sorry, but we won't continue to do it." Mom pulled out her phone and showed me the screen. It was a photo from Instagram, Trenton and Alyssa standing in front of my house, her arms wrapped around his waist, both of them grinning like they'd won the lottery. "They're already living there," I whispered. "Trenton needed a place to stay during the transition," Mom said, not even having the decency to look ashamed. "And Alyssa is such a sweet girl, very mature for her age." "You've met her?" "We had lunch yesterday. She's studying business, wants to start her own marketing firm someday. Very ambitious." Mom's tone was warm in a way it never was when she talked about me. "She reminds me of myself at that age." I felt something crack inside my chest. "So you're replacing me with her?" "Don't be ridiculous." But Mom's voice lacked conviction. Dad slid the papers across the desk. "We need you to sign these. It's just a formality. The transfer will happen regardless, but your signature makes it cleaner." I picked up the documents with shaking hands. Legal jargon filled the pages, but the meaning was crystal clear. They were giving away the house where I'd spent my entire childhood, the house filled with my memories, my history, my grandmother's garden that I'd tended for years. "What about Grandma Eliza's rose bushes?" I asked. "She planted those for me when I was 7. "Alyssa loves gardening," Mom said. "She's already planning to expand the flower beds." That's when I broke. Not the quiet, dignified tears I'd been holding back, ugly, gasping sobs that made my whole body shake. I collapsed back into the chair and let it all pour out. "Please," I begged between sobs. "Please don't do this. I'll change. I'll be better. I'll be whatever you want me to be. Just don't take my home away." Mom's expression softened slightly, but Dad remained stone-faced. "This is for your own good, Cecilia. Someday you'll thank us. I'll never forgive you for this. The words came out raw and broken. Never. You will, Mom said with infuriating certainty. When you're standing on your own 2 feet, when you've built a real life for yourself, you'll understand that we did this out of love. I signed the papers through my tears, my signature barely legible. What choice did I have? As I stumbled toward the door, Dad called after me. Cecilia, we're having dinner with Trenton and Alyssa tomorrow night. You're welcome to join us if you think you can behave appropriately. I didn't turn around. I couldn't let them see the look on my face, because it wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was something much more dangerous. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A text from an unknown number. Ms. Williams, this is Victoria Henry from Henry & Associates. I represented your grandmother's estate. We need to discuss an urgent matter regarding her will. Please call at your earliest convenience. I stared at the message, my tears finally stopping. Grandma Eliza. Even from the grave, she was still looking out for me. Victoria's law office smelled like old leather and expensive coffee. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-40s with sharp eyes and silver streaks in her dark hair. The kind of woman who probably ate corporate lawyers for breakfast. I'm sorry for your loss, she said, gesturing for me to sit across from her massive desk. Your grandmother was an extraordinary woman. Thank you. I clutched my purse in my lap. Your message said something about her will? Victoria opened a thick file folder. Before we begin, I need to ask, have your parents made any significant changes to your inheritance recently? Transferred any property that was meant for you? My stomach dropped. How did you know? Because your grandmother anticipated this might happen. Victoria pulled out a document that looked decades old. Eliza came to me 23 years ago, right after your parents' first major financial crisis. She was very concerned about their priorities. What kind of priorities? The kind that put social status above family loyalty. Victoria's tone was dry. She watched them choose appearances over substance more than once. She was particularly worried about how they might treat you if they ever felt threatened. I leaned forward. What are you saying? Victoria turned the document toward me. Your grandmother included a very specific clause in her will. She called it her insurance policy. If your parents ever attempted to disinherit you or transfer property that was designated as your inheritance, this clause would activate. What does it do? It transfers complete ownership of Rivera Holdings to you. The name meant nothing to me. What's Rivera Holdings? Victoria smiled, the first genuine expression I'd seen from her. It's the private lending company that holds the mortgages on all of your family's properties. Your parents' house, their vacation home in the Hamptons, the downtown office building where your father's business operates, and as of 3 days ago, your childhood home. The room went silent, except for the ticking of an antique clock on the wall. You're telling me I own their mortgages? All of them. Your grandmother was very thorough. She spent years quietly acquiring the debt on every piece of real estate your family owns. Victoria pulled out another stack of papers. She also included detailed instructions on how to proceed if this clause was ever triggered. My hands were shaking as I reached for the documents. This can't be legal. It's completely legal. Your grandmother was a brilliant businesswoman, and she had excellent lawyers. Victoria's smile turned predatory. The transfers happened automatically when your parents signed those papers yesterday. You are now the sole owner of Rivera Holdings, which means you control approximately $12 million in outstanding debt. $12 million? Your parents live well above their means. They've been leveraging properties to buy more properties for years. It's a house of cards, and you're holding all the cards now. I stared at the papers, the legal language swimming before my eyes. What exactly can I do with this? Whatever you want. You can continue the current payment arrangements. You can call in the loans immediately. You can foreclose. Victoria shrugged. It's entirely up to you. And they don't know? Rivera Holdings operates through a complex network of shell companies. Your parents have no idea who actually owns their debt. As far as they know, they're dealing with a faceless corporation. I thought about Mom's smug expression when she showed me that Instagram photo, about Dad telling me I needed to grow up, about Trenton and Alyssa planning to expand Grandma's garden. There's more, Victoria continued. Your grandmother left you a personal letter. She insisted you read it before making any decisions. She handed me an envelope with my name written in Grandma's familiar handwriting. I opened it with trembling fingers. My dearest Cecilia, if you're reading this, then your parents have shown their true colors. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I hoped I was wrong about them. I've given you the tools to protect yourself, but what you do with them is entirely your choice. You can be merciful. God knows you have a kinder heart than I ever did. Or you can show them the same compassion they showed you. Remember, they made their choices. Whatever consequences follow are theirs to bear. You were always my favorite, even when I couldn't say it out loud. All my love, Grandma Eliza. Or P.S. The roses in your garden are called Just Joey. I planted them because they're survivors, just like you. I folded the letter carefully and looked up at Victoria. How long do I have to decide? There's no time limit, but I should mention your parents are planning to host a housewarming party next weekend for Trenton and Alyssa. Victoria's expression was carefully neutral. I thought you might want to know. A housewarming party, in my house, with my parents playing host to the man who destroyed my marriage and the girl who helped him do it. Victoria? I stood up, clutching the documents to my chest. What would happen if I called in all the loans at once? Immediate foreclosure proceedings on all properties. Your parents would lose everything within 30 days. Everything? Everything. The houses, the business, their cars if they're financed through the same networks. Your grandmother was very thorough. I walked to the window and looked down at the busy street below. People going about their normal lives, unaware that mine had just been turned completely upside down. I need some time to think. Of course, but Cecilia? Victoria's voice was gentle. Your grandmother didn't give you this power to make you cruel. She gave it to you so you'd never be powerless again. I nodded and headed for the door, my mind already spinning with possibilities. They wanted me to be independent? Fine. I was about to show them exactly what independence looked like. I called Marissa from my car in Victoria's parking lot. We'd been best friends since 3rd grade, and she was the only person who'd seen through my parents' perfect facade from day one. Holy shit, Cecilia. I've been trying to reach you for days. Her voice was breathless. I saw Trenton's Instagram. Are you okay? Can you meet me at Murphy's? I need to tell you something, and I can't do it over the phone. I'm already grabbing my keys. Murphy's was our old hangout, a dive bar that served the best wings in town and didn't judge you for day drinking. Marissa was waiting in our usual booth, her red hair pulled back in a messy bun and concern written all over her face. You look like hell, she said, pulling me into a hug. Thanks, that's exactly what every woman wants to hear. I slid into the booth across from her. Order me a whiskey, make it a double. It's 2 p.m. Trust me, you're going to want one too, after I tell you what happened. I laid out everything, Trenton leaving, my parents' betrayal, the house transfer, and finally, Grandma Eliza's surprise inheritance. Marissa's expression went from sympathy to shock, to something that looked like bloodthirsty glee. So you're telling me, she said slowly, that you now own the mortgages on all their properties? Every single one. Including the house they just gave to your cheating ex-husband? Yep. Marissa leaned back in the booth and started laughing. Not polite laughter, the kind of maniacal cackling that made other patrons turn and stare. This is beautiful, she said, wiping tears from her eyes. This is absolutely fucking beautiful. It's not funny, Marissa. Are you kidding me? It's hilarious. Your ice queen mother and spineless father just handed your house to the man who cheated on you, and now you can take it all back whenever you want. She raised her glass. To Grandma Eliza. That woman was a genius. I clinked my glass against hers, but I couldn't share her enthusiasm. I don't know if I can actually go through with it. Why not? Because they're still my parents. And Trenton, we were married for 12 years. Marissa's expression hardened. Cecilia, do you remember your college graduation? What does that have to do with anything? You graduated summa cum laude with a degree in art history. You were accepted to graduate programs at 3 different universities. And what did your mother say when you told her? I stared into my whiskey. I remembered. She said art history was a hobby, not a career. And what did she make you do instead? Work at Dad's accounting firm. For how long? 2 years. The memories were flooding back now. Until I married Trenton. And then what? Did she support your marriage? She always made little comments about how I could do better, how Trenton was too ambitious for his own good. But the second he left you, whose side did she take? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Marissa leaned forward. Your parents have spent your entire life making you feel small. They convinced you that you needed them, that you couldn't survive without their approval. And the moment you actually needed their support, they threw you away like garbage. But foreclosing on their homes is exactly what they deserve. Marissa's voice was fierce. They chose status over their own daughter. They chose your ex-husband over you. They gave away your childhood home to the woman he's cheating with. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Dinner tonight at 7. Trenton and Alyssa will be joining us. Please try to be pleasant. I showed the message to Marissa, who read it and shook her head in disgust. They're rubbing your face in it. Maybe I should go. Try to make peace. Cecilia, look at me. Marissa grabbed my hands across the table. I've watched these people tear you down for 34 years. Your mother made you believe you weren't smart enough, pretty enough, successful enough. Your father stood by and let it happen. And now they're having dinner with the people who destroyed your marriage like it's some kind of celebration. She was right. I knew she was right. What would you do? I asked. I'd burn it all down. Her smile was sharp. But I'm not you. You're better than me, more forgiving. That's why they've been able to walk all over you for so long. I pulled out Victoria's business card and stared at it. There's a housewarming party next weekend, I said quietly, at my house for Trenton and Alyssa. Jesus Christ. Mum's probably already sent out invitations, all their friends, all their business contacts, everyone who matters in their social circle. Marissa's eyes lit up with understanding. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, I said, pulling out my phone to call Victoria, that it would be a shame if some unexpected legal documents were delivered during the party. Now, you're talking, Marissa raised her glass again, to justice served cold. This time, I didn't hesitate to drink. Victoria answered on the second ring. Cecilia, have you made a decision? I have. I want to move forward with foreclosure proceedings on all properties, but I want the notices delivered next Saturday. During the party? During the party, in front of everyone. There was a pause. That's dramatic. They want drama? I'll give them drama. I'll need a few days to prepare the paperwork. Are you absolutely certain about this? I looked across the table at Marissa, who was grinning like a shark. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. The week leading up to the party was torture. I had to watch from the sidelines as my parents and Trenton played happy family on social media. Alyssa posted daily updates about decorating our new home and Sunday brunch with the in-laws. Each post felt like a knife twist, but the worst part was the phone calls. Cecilia, darling, you simply must come to the housewarming, Mom said during her third call that week. People are asking about you, and it looks strange that you're not there. I don't think that's a good idea. Nonsense. You need to show everyone that you're handling this divorce maturely, like an adult. Like an adult? I gripped the phone tighter. You mean like how you handled it maturely when you gave my house to my ex-husband? We've been over this. It was the practical solution. Her voice had that edge again. Besides, Alyssa has done such wonderful things with the place. She's very talented. I hung up on her. The calls from Trenton were worse. He started leaving voicemails Thursday night, his voice getting more desperate with each message. Cecilia, we need to talk. Your parents think you're planning something, and honestly, you're scaring them. Just call me back, okay? Then Friday morning. Look, I know you're hurt, but this silent treatment isn't helping anyone. Alyssa's getting stressed about the party, and your mother's blood pressure is through the roof. By Friday evening, he was practically begging, please, Cece, I know I hurt you, but we can work this out like civilized people. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Cece. He hadn't called me that in years. I was sitting in my tiny rental apartment, a studio that cost more per month than my parents' mortgage payment, when Marissa showed up with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. Stress eating? She asked, noting the empty ice cream containers on my counter. Stress everything. I collapsed on my couch. Maybe this is a mistake. Maybe I should just let them have their perfect little life. Are you insane? Marissa set down the food and stared at me. Cecilia, do you know what your mother said to Mrs. Patterson at the grocery store yesterday? I don't want to know. She said you were having a breakdown, that you'd always been unstable, and the divorce just pushed you over the edge. Marissa's voice was deadly quiet. She told Mrs. Patterson that they were worried you might hurt yourself. The words hit me like a physical blow. She said what? She's setting the narrative, making sure everyone knows that when you inevitably cause a scene, it's because you're mentally unstable, not because they destroyed your life. I stared at the wall, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. There's more, Marissa continued. I ran into Alyssa at the coffee shop this morning. She was on the phone with someone, talking about how pathetic you are, how she can't understand what Trenton ever saw in you. Stop. She said you were clinging to the past and that it was honestly embarrassing how you couldn't just move on. I stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, I could see families having dinner, couples walking their dogs, normal people living normal lives. 22 years old, I said quietly. She's 22 years old, and she thinks she knows everything about my life. She's about to learn a very expensive lesson about consequences. My phone rang. Victoria. The papers are ready, she said without preamble. I've arranged for a process server to deliver them tomorrow at 3 p.m. Are you still certain about this? I looked at Marissa, who was watching me with fierce determination. What happens after the papers are served? They'll have 30 days to pay the full amount of their loans or face foreclosure. Given the amounts involved, payment in full is essentially impossible. And if they try to fight it? They can try, but the contracts are ironclad. Your grandmother made sure of that. I closed my eyes and saw Alyssa's Instagram post from that morning, her and Trenton in my grandmother's garden, the roses I'd tended for years serving as backdrop for their happiness. Do it. Cecilia. Do it, Victoria, all of it. After I hung up, Marissa poured 2 large glasses of wine. How do you feel? She asked. Terrified, excited, sick to my stomach. I took a long sip, like I'm about to jump off a cliff. Good. That means you're finally taking control of your life. We spent the rest of the evening planning. Marissa had connections in local media. Her cousin worked for the newspaper, and her college roommate was a blogger who covered local society events. If you're going to do this, Marissa said, you might as well do it right. Make sure everyone sees exactly who your parents really are. By midnight, we had a plan. The papers would be served during the party's peak, right when all the guests were there, right when Mom would be showing off her perfect family to all her friends. Are you ready for this? Marissa asked as she gathered her things to leave. I thought about Trenton's desperate voicemails, about Mom's lies to Mrs. Patterson, about Alyssa calling me pathetic. I've been ready for 34 years, I said. I just didn't know it yet. After Marissa left, I sat alone in my tiny apartment and raised a toast to the empty room. Here's to you, Grandma Eliza. Tomorrow they're going to learn exactly what kind of survivor you raised. Saturday morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Dad. Cecilia, you need to call me immediately, his voicemail said. There's been some kind of mistake with our mortgage company. They're saying there's an audit and we need to provide documentation for all our properties. This is urgent. I deleted the message and made coffee. The next voicemail was from Mom. Sweetheart, your father is having some kind of panic attack about paperwork. Can you please call us? We need your help organizing the financial documents. Delete. Trenton's message was the most desperate. Cece, something's wrong. Your parents are freaking out about some audit and they think it might affect the house transfer. Please just call me back. We can figure this out together. I almost laughed at that one. Together. By noon, I was parked across the street from my childhood home, watching the party preparations. A catering truck was unloading tables and chairs. A florist was arranging elaborate bouquets on the front porch. The same porch where I'd had my first kiss, where Grandma used to read me stories. Alyssa appeared in the doorway wearing a flowing sundress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She was directing the workers with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her entire 22 years of life. My phone rang. Marissa. Are you watching the circus? She asked. Front row seat. My cousin just texted me. The process server is on his way. ETA 15 minutes. Good. I watched Trenton emerge from the house looking stressed. He kept checking his phone and running his hands through his hair. Something's already got them spooked. Probably the audit notice Victoria sent yesterday. Nothing like a little financial anxiety to set the mood. I could see guests starting to arrive. The Hendersons, the Pattersons, the mayor and his wife. All of Mom's social circle, the people whose opinions she valued more than her own daughter's happiness. Cecilia? Marissa's voice was gentle. You don't have to watch this. You could go home, let it happen without... No. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. I need to see this. At exactly 3 p.m., a man in a cheap suit walked up the front path carrying a manila envelope. The process server. He looked nervous. Probably his first time serving papers at a society party. I watched him approach Mum, who was greeting guests at the front door. She smiled at him politely, probably thinking he was a late arrival. When he handed her the envelope and said something official sounding, her smile faltered. She opened it right there on the porch, in front of Mrs. Henderson and the mayor's wife. I saw her face go white, then red, then white again. She stumbled backward and Dad rushed over. The process server wasn't done. He walked inside, and I could see him through the front windows, handing envelopes to Trenton and then to Alyssa. That's when the screaming started. Alyssa's voice carried across the street. What do you mean foreclosure? This is our house. Trenton was on his phone, pacing frantically. I could see him gesturing wildly as he talked. Dad appeared on the porch, his face gray. He was clutching his chest like he was having trouble breathing. Mom was beside him, waving the papers in the air and talking rapidly to anyone who would listen. The guests were starting to cluster together, whispering and pointing. Some were taking pictures with their phones. Mrs. Patterson looked absolutely delighted. She'd been waiting years for Mom to fall from grace. My phone rang. Dad. Cecilia, thank God. We need you here right now. There's been some terrible mistake. What kind of mistake? The mortgage company is saying we owe $12 million immediately, or they're foreclosing on everything. The house, the business, everything. It's impossible. 12 million? That does sound like a lot. Don't be sarcastic. This is serious. They're saying some company called Rivera Holdings owns all our debt, and they're calling in the loans. Rivera Holdings? I made my voice sound confused. Never heard of them. Neither have we. That's why this has to be a mistake. Can you come over? We need someone level-headed to help us figure this out. Through the window, I could see Alyssa crying while Trenton tried to comfort her. Mom was cornering the mayor, probably trying to get him to intervene somehow. I don't think that's a good idea, Dad. You made it pretty clear that I'm not part of the family anymore. Don't be ridiculous. Of course you're family. Funny, that's not what you said when you gave my house away. There was a long pause. Cecilia, what do you know about this Rivera Holdings? Why would I know anything about it? Because this is too convenient. The timing, the amounts. Are you accusing me of something? I'm asking if you had anything to do with this. I watched a news van pull up to the curb. Marissa's cousin worked fast. Dad, I'm a part-time gallery worker who just lost her house and her husband. What exactly do you think I'm capable of? I don't know anymore. His voice was broken. I don't know anything anymore. Well, when you figure it out, let me know. I hung up and immediately called Victoria. It's done, she said. All papers served. They have 30 days. And if they can't pay, then everything goes to auction. The houses, the business assets, everything. I watched Mom collapse into a chair on the porch while guests awkwardly filtered away. The party was over before it had really begun. Victoria, there's one more thing I want to do. What's that? I want to buy my house back. At auction. Whatever it takes. That can be arranged. I started my car and drove away, leaving my family to face the consequences of their choices. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The story broke on Monday morning. Local family faces financial ruin after mysterious foreclosure was the headline in the newspaper. By Tuesday, it was trending on local Facebook groups. By Wednesday, the gossip had reached every corner of our small town. I was having coffee at Murphy's when Marissa burst through the door, waving her phone. Have you seen this? She slid into the booth across from me, breathless with excitement. Someone leaked the whole story to that society blogger, everything. She showed me the article on her phone. The headline read, "The Williams Family Fall, How Greed and Betrayal Led to Social Suicide." The blogger had done her homework. She'd interviewed party guests, dug up financial records, even found old social media posts. The article painted a devastating picture of my parents' treatment of me, complete with quotes from witnesses. Listen to this, Marissa said, scrolling down. According to multiple sources, Nora Williams was overheard at the party saying her daughter was mentally unstable and had always been a disappointment. When asked for comment about giving her daughter's house to her ex-husband, Mrs. Williams reportedly said, "Some people need to learn hard lessons." My phone had been ringing non-stop since the article went live. I'd ignored every call. There's more, Marissa continued. Someone recorded Alyssa's meltdown at the party. She's screaming about how this is all your fault, how you're psychotic and jealous. It's all over TikTok. She showed me the video. Alyssa was in my grandmother's garden, mascara streaming down her face, while Trenton tried to calm her down. This is insane, Alyssa was shrieking. She's doing this because she can't handle that Trenton chose me. She's literally trying to make us homeless because she's a bitter old maid. The comments on the video were brutal. People were calling her entitled, spoiled, a homewrecker. Someone had even found her LinkedIn and posted screenshots of her calling herself future Mrs. Perkins, just days after my divorce was finalized. The internet is not being kind to your replacement, Marissa said with satisfaction. My phone rang again. This time it was Trenton, and something made me answer. Cecilia, please, we need to talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Don't play dumb. I know this is you. The timing, the company name. Rivera was your grandmother's maiden name. I didn't confirm or deny it. Look, I get it. You're angry. You have every right to be angry, but Alyssa doesn't deserve this. She's just a kid. A kid who called me pathetic and embarrassing. She was upset. She didn't mean... She meant every word, Trenton, just like you meant it when you said I was immature. Just like my parents meant it when they chose you over me. Your parents are in bad shape, Cece. Your mom's been in bed for 3 days. Your dad looks like he aged 10 years overnight. And they're your parents. Whatever they did, they don't deserve to lose everything. I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to my own ears. They don't deserve to lose everything. What about me, Trenton? What did I deserve? You deserved better than me. I know that now. You're right, I did. There was a long pause. What do you want? Money? I can get money. My parents have some savings. Your parents? I interrupted. The same parents who refused to help with our mortgage payments but somehow have savings to bail you out now? That's different. Is it? Or are you just another person who takes what they want and expects everyone else to clean up the mess? Please, Cecilia, tell me what you want. I'll do anything. I thought about all the years I'd waited for him to fight for our marriage, to choose me over his ambition, to put me first just once. I want you to leave me alone. I hung up and immediately blocked his number. That afternoon, Victoria called with an update. The 30-day period expires tomorrow. None of them have been able to secure financing to pay off the loans. So it goes to auction? It goes to auction, but there's something else. I received a very interesting phone call this morning. From who? A private investigator. Apparently, Trenton has been running a side business, investment scams targeting wealthy widows. He's been using his relationship with Alyssa to gain access to her family's social circle. I sat down hard. What kind of scams? Fake real estate investments, mostly. He's taken at least $200,000 from 3 different women in the past 6 months. One of them filed a police report yesterday. Does Alyssa know? Based on the PI's report, she's been helping him, setting up meetings, vouching for his credibility. She's not as innocent as she pretends to be. I stared out my apartment window at the grey sky. So they're both criminals. It appears so. The police will probably be making arrests within the week. After Victoria hung up, I sat in my tiny apartment and tried to process everything. My ex-husband was a con artist. His girlfriend was his accomplice. My parents had chosen criminals over their own daughter. Marissa knocked on my door an hour later, carrying a bottle of champagne. I figured you might need this, she said, noting my expression. What happened now? I told her about Trenton's crimes, about the arrests that were coming. Jesus, she said, pouring 2 glasses. Your grandmother really did give you the perfect revenge, didn't she? They destroyed themselves. I didn't know about the scams. But you knew they were the kind of people who would choose money over family. Your grandmother knew it too. We sat in silence for a while, drinking champagne and watching the sunset. The auction is tomorrow, I said finally. Are you ready? I thought about my empty childhood home, about Grandma's roses, about all the memories I'd lost and might be able to reclaim. I think so. The auction was held on the courthouse steps on a crisp Thursday morning. I arrived early, wearing the black suit I'd bought for job interviews I never got. Victoria stood beside me, holding a briefcase full of cashier's checks. A small crowd had gathered, mostly real estate investors and curiosity seekers who'd followed the story in the news. I spotted a few familiar faces from my parents' social circle, probably there to witness the final act of their downfall. Mom and Dad arrived just as the auctioneer was setting up. They looked like they'd aged a decade in the past month. Dad's hair had gone completely grey, and Mom's usually perfect appearance was disheveled. They saw me and started walking over. Cecilia, Mom said, her voice hoarse, we need to talk. I don't think we do. Please, just 5 minutes. Dad looked like he was about to cry. We know it was you. We know you own Rivera Holdings. Prove it. We don't need to prove it, Mom snapped, some of her old fire returning. We know our own daughter. Do you? Because a month ago you didn't know me well enough to believe I deserved basic loyalty. We made mistakes, Dad said quietly. We were trying to help you become independent. By giving my house to my ex-husband? By having dinner with the woman he cheated with? By telling the entire town I was mentally unstable? Mom's face flushed. I never said Mrs. Patterson recorded your conversation at the grocery store. It's been all over Facebook. The auctioneer called for attention. First property up for bid, 1247 Maple Street. Beautiful colonial home, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, established gardens. My childhood home. I raised my paddle. Opening bid is $50,000. Another paddle went up, then another. The price climbed quickly. 100,000, 150, 200. 250, I called out. 300, someone else bid. I looked around and saw Trenton at the back of the crowd. He was wearing handcuffs and flanked by 2 police officers, but he was still trying to bid on my house. 400,000, I said loudly. The crowd murmured. That was well above market value. 450, Trenton called out desperately. One of the officers yanked his arm down. You're under arrest, sir. You can't participate in this auction. 500,000, I said, staring directly at him. The auctioneer looked around. Any other bids? Going once? Going twice? Sold to bidder number 7. I'd bought back my childhood home. As the crowd dispersed, Trenton was led away in handcuffs. I heard him shouting something about appeal processes and legal representation, but his voice faded as the police car drove away. Alyssa was nowhere to be seen. According to the morning news, she'd been arrested at her parents' house the night before, trying to flee with a suitcase full of cash from Trenton's scams. Mom and Dad approached me again as I was signing the final paperwork. Congratulations, Dad said quietly. You got what you wanted. Did I? What exactly did I want, Dad? Revenge. No. I wanted a family that wouldn't throw me away the moment it became convenient. Mom was crying now, quiet tears that she kept wiping away. We're sorry. We're so sorry. Are you sorry you did it or sorry you got caught? She didn't answer. The other properties go up for auction next week, I said. Your house, the vacation home, Dad's office building, I won't be bidding on those. What does that mean? Dad asked. It means you'll have to figure out your own lives, just like you wanted me to do. Victoria appeared at my elbow. Cecilia, we should go. The paperwork is complete. As we walked away, I heard Mom call after me. We're still your parents. I stopped and turned around. No, parents protect their children. Parents choose their children over strangers. Parents don't abandon their daughters when they need them most. So that's it? Dad's voice was broken. We're not a family anymore? We stopped being a family the day you chose Trenton over me. I drove to my house, and sat in the driveway for a long time. The for sale sign was still on the lawn. Alyssa's gaudy decorations were still hanging from the porch railings. I walked around to the backyard and found Grandma's rose garden. The Just Joey roses were blooming, their peachy orange petals bright against the green leaves. Alyssa had added some tacky garden gnomes, but the roses had survived. My phone rang. Marissa. How does it feel to be a homeowner again? Expensive. I just spent $500,000 on a house worth $350. Worth every penny for the look on Trenton's face when he got arrested. I laughed, and it felt good. Did you see the news about the charges? Wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. He's looking at serious prison time. And Alyssa? Conspiracy charges. Her lawyer's trying to claim she was manipulated, but the evidence is pretty damning. Turns out she was the one who suggested targeting widows specifically. I knelt down and touched one of Grandma's roses. The petals were soft and perfect. Marissa, I think I'm going to renovate this place, make it mine again. Good. It's about time you had a home that actually felt like home. After we hung up, I sat in Grandma's garden until the sun set. The house was empty and quiet, but it didn't feel lonely. It felt like possibility. I thought about Mom and Dad, probably packing up their belongings right now, preparing to move into whatever small apartment they could afford. I thought about Trenton in his jail cell, finally facing consequences for his actions. I thought about Alyssa, learning that being 22 and pretty didn't make you immune to the law. I didn't feel sorry for any of them, but I didn't feel satisfied either. Revenge, it turned out, was a lot like cotton candy, sweet for a moment, then gone, leaving you empty. What I felt was free. Free to rebuild my life however I wanted. Free to plant new flowers in Grandma's garden. Free to fill this house with people who actually cared about me. I pulled out my phone and called Victoria. I want to set up a scholarship fund, I said, for young women who've been abandoned by their families. I want to use the money from the other property auctions. That's a beautiful idea, Cecilia. And Victoria, I want to name it after my grandmother, the Eliza Rivera Foundation. She would have loved that. I stood up and walked toward my house, my real home, as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. Behind me, Grandma's roses rustled in the evening breeze, survivors blooming in the garden of justice.